trying to do is now introduce their website on the phone as part of their process to say, oh, by the way, have you been to our website? Did you know, we speak to lots of our customers, and one of the pain points they've previously had at buying a car is spending 2.5-3 hours in a dealership when buying a car, where actually we can get that down to 30 to 60 minutes because there's a lot of stuff you can do at home before you even turn up. Yeah. So if you've got a part exchange, you can take photos, you can upload it, we can get evaluation ready before you even come down. We've got finance calculators on our website. We've got a new car configurator, so you can build your perfect car, which they're seeing. One of our clients are seeing 1 in 5 people use the new car configurator. And when there's lack of stock, that's helping them build the forward orders, etc. So there are things you can do, but it's up to you to kind of introduce it, because not every customer is going to find it by themselves and might not even prefer it. But it's about giving them that kind of option of, if you want to do the finance application before you come down, you can. The ability's there. If you want to do this, you can, and it's up to you.
Hello and welcome back to the Armchair Show. My name is Mark Ellis, and today I'm joined by 2 very special guests. We have Joel Combes, who is the Managing Director of Logistics, and John Miele, who is the Managing Director of Roadster. And we talk about what those 2 guys do in the industry, their history, how they got to where they are now, and we have a really good, fascinating chat about the car buyer journey. Let's get into it. So, welcome to the studio, John and Joel. Joel, we were just saying, actually, I think the last time we spoke, it was on Zoom, wasn't it?
Absolutely, in the middle of the pandemic.
I know. How does it feel to be in the real studio?
Well, you've done a great job in here. It looks good. It's a step up from what I was sitting in.
We'll leave that there. That's all sorts of mystery over where you were last time. But just for the benefit of people who don't know, Joel, can you tell us a bit about yourself?
I'm the Managing Director of Logistics, a law firm for the Motortrade, probably the largest law firm for the Motortrade. We run the account for 1,500 clients. We run a legal helpline and a casework service. So if a dealer has a problem with an employee, a customer or a supplier, that's the sort of thing we get involved in. I could go on it hours about it, but I shan't.
I don't know. How long have you done this?
In logistics, we've been running for 20 years. Been in the motor trade for 25 years. So I was with Law Data, my father's firm, just before that.
And what's changed the most over those years? If you could pick one thing?
It's funny because you think there's a lot of change in the motor trade. And I was just thinking this, there's the new consumer duty. The FCA is talking about this paper that's coming out in the middle of this year, and what they're saying is that the consumer isn't treated fairly.
Okay.
Just coming back, what's changed or what's not changed in the motor trade? As soon as I came in, it was always the motor trade were not dealt with fairly, and they were always in court. They always lost court. But it seems nothing's changed really, whereas it's all in the consumer's court. And certainly through the pandemic, they started buying online, and you'll be very savvy with the online experience. The trading standards have looked at that journey of buying online and looking that the consumer has to inherit the same rights they had in the shop floor as they do on purchase online. So there's a big focus on the consumer. But there's always been a big focus on the consumer.
Of course there has, yeah, absolutely. We'll come on to the buying journey in a moment, actually. But again, welcome, for the first time to the studio, John.
Yes, first time here.
We have spoken before, haven't we? But again, it's not been in person. So
over Zoom.
Good old Zoom. It's nice to put that in the back pocket now. So again, for the benefit of the audience, can you tell us a bit about yourself?
Sure, yeah. So I'm the Managing Director of Roadster UK. So we're omni-channel retailing solution for dealerships. Personally, I've been in automotive now for coming up to 14 years. Had always been in the lead generation side. So previously at Carwow, helped start that from scratch, and yeah, for the last year have been moved into the system side of car retailing. So yeah. Bit of my history.
Yeah, quite a change as well from your perspective.
Yeah, learned a lot, still learning. It's good. It's again, I enjoy challenges. I enjoy problem solving. So learning something new is definitely is nice for me to do.
Yeah, and from your perspective, what's changed in that period where you've changed yourself in terms of your career and that path? What's changed in the industry for you as well?
I think the definitely the adoption of a mindset change within dealerships themselves, and I don't just mean senior level, because I think a lot of senior execs I've been speaking to over the years have always thought of, okay, we know change is coming, they're gearing up for it. But I think on the ground level, speaking to sales execs who deal with customers day in, day out, speaking to the sales managers who are used to like really controlling, like stacking deals and things like that. And actually, I think there's been a big mindset change of, let's empower our sales execs to do more with customers, be a bit more transparent, and actually start coaching and managing their teams rather than trying to control everything. I think that's the biggest mindset change actually in the dealerships themselves, because they know there's lots more going on online. Consumers are happier to do a lot more for themselves at home before then finalising it. I think that's the biggest mindset change, and trying to embrace those new technologies that help them do that in the most efficient way.
Yeah. Have you found that challenging yourself? Is it something you've struggled to adapt to, or?
No, I think I've always, I always thought that, the learning new technologies, yes, a bit. I've always been keen to, but I've always been, I think about myself, I think I've been very adept to change. I actually embrace change. I like it. I know a lot of people don't, but again, I don't know if that's sadistic or not. I just like the constant change. I like the constant challenge. But I think the biggest challenge I found is try to speak and help people who do struggle to embrace that change, and try and help them embrace it instead. And people can be set in their ways, and then trying to introduce something new. Some people just like pick it up, get it and run with it, and other people need a lot of kind of encouragement and help to get there. That's probably the biggest challenge I'm seeing at the moment.
Yeah, but it often takes someone else to say something to you, doesn't it?
It can do. It's funny, we were on a call the other day, and we had a group of the managers there, and we were looking through like usage of new tools within the showroom. And again, you're looking across a whole division. And one of the divisional leaders kind of said to us, "It's it shouldn't be down to these guys to help change the mindset of our team. It's down to us as managers." But actually, I enjoy getting involved with that. I enjoy trying to help and teach and educate, and that's good.
Awesome. And Joel, from your point of view, what's the biggest challenge you've experienced, do you think, of the last 2 or 3 years?
I think it's quite funny you were saying about the employees there. For me personally, the last 2 years during the pandemic is we had all the employees. We furloughed probably 30% because we were quite busy, but we came on and then we needed to recruit more. I was in the sad situation of losing my father at the beginning of the pandemic. We ran the company together. He was much more involved in the HR, so I've had to step in there and take the reins, and that has been a huge challenge for me, understanding that people are people and you can't control them, and you've really got to put procedures in place that they can follow, but also give them some leeway to kind of have a life or combine their work with their employment. And I think we've been quite successful in that. The team has got a lot stronger by recognising it, really, and then being able to react to that.
Yeah, that's a huge challenge to deal with, isn't it, personally, but also with the business as well. I think that's I can imagine that's
it was something that I felt that I was forced into. And when you're forced into something, you're kind of fighting it, aren't you? But then when you start to see the benefits of it, when you see by giving people some freedom within their own job, that you get this loyalty back from them, and then the company can grow a little bit faster and better.
Yeah.
So I think we've done some great stuff over the last 2 years on that.
Excellent, that's good to hear. Talking of being forced into things and going back to the buyer journey, do you think current car buyers have been forced into a new way of buying cars, John? And do you think they like it, or do you think is it challenging for them, or do you think they're enjoying it?
I think on the whole, yes, they pretty much have been. It's funny. I think I don't want to contradict myself, but I think on the whole they are kind of forced to go down one route or another. But that's not actually what I think a lot of companies are trying to achieve. But because of, again, when you look at the kind of solutions they've got in play, it kind of says, right, you can do it all online or you can do it offline, and the two don't often sync up. And for us, obviously, what we see is when you give consumers the genuine choice of, you can do it all online, you can do it offline, or you can jump online to offline, and it's always connected and it's seamless. that the experience is great there. So there are things out there, there are technologies out there that are allowing consumers to do that. I just don't think everyone's got that at the moment, and it is kind of like you have to do this or you have to do that. I was looking at the recent global Deloitte study on automotive and consumer behaviour. And they were saying they did it from different marketplaces across the world, but the general kind of consensus was 3 in 4 people still are happy to do in-person buying of some sorts, whether that's just at handover or whatever part, but the majority are still happy to go to dealerships. Then the other 25%, a small percentage were no, we want to do everything fully online and don't want to have to go to a dealership. And then there was circa 15-16% or whatever as part of that 25% that were a mixture of both. We're comfortable doing some stuff online, but also we kind of want to see it. So I think that the fact that consumers want to still have very much a kind of like touch and feel experience. Yes, more and more are happy to do more of the purchase online, but it's about trying to just join that up, and not just in automotive, actually, just if you look at across retail in general, some of the big players, the kind of technologies they're investing in to try and give consumers back their time. People like you've got Amazon, so obviously they're the kind of like everyone thinks of Amazon as they started online, everything's online, but they're investing in bricks and mortar. They've got Amazon Fresh over in the UK, it was Amazon Go in the US, and now they've got Amazon 4-star as well. So 2 of these initiatives that came out in 2021 is about the Amazon Fresh is about linking what they do physically to something online, so they don't have to queue up, they don't have to wait, and it's easy to use. And then traditional retailers like Tesco have brought out their own version. Sainsbury's have now bought the technology from Amazon to be able to offer it, and it's all about improving that customer experience by not just what they think customers want, by looking at how do people shop, and time is kind of the new currency for consumers in any retail experience. Nike have done the same. They've tried to make it really easy where you start on your phone, and then if you go to one of their stores that has this technology, not every Nike store has it yet, but they're rolling it out, where you walk into that store and there's a locker with your name on it, a digital one, and you open it with your phone. The trainers you were looking at are there. You put them on, you walk out if you want them, and it's charged, and if you don't, you put them back. There's no queuing up, there's no having to speak to someone. So it's using technology to try and help for the people who do want to touch and feel stuff and try it on, for instance. It's how do you make it quick, not queuing up, not waiting, not spending hours going through paperwork, and it's how do you kind of like make that bit smaller that people can do at home, but just have the great experience when they go into the physical locations. And lots of big brands are investing in that sort of technology, and that's what our partners are looking to do as well. So
yeah, but like you say, that research says it all, doesn't it? There's still the vast majority, or a majority of people want that traditional, go into a dealership, sit in the car, drive it and feel it before they actually spend a lot of money.
Yeah, absolutely.
Normally. With that in mind, Joel, do you think we're forcing them into certain things? If we think about things, for instance, like subscription models, personally, I never thought we'd get to a point where we would subscribe to a car, but we're going down that route. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I don't sell vehicles, but I've been trying to buy one for the last 9 months.
How's that been?
I feel that I'm being forced cars rather than getting the one I want. And whenever I want any choice, suddenly the price goes up hugely. So that's going to be a big decision on whether I get what I want or whether I get something that somebody wants to sell me. As far as touchy-feely, they can't get the cars in the UK anyway to go and feel them. But I know absolutely everything about the car I'm going to buy.
I bet you. I mean, 9 months is a long time to be shopping, isn't it? Why is it taking 9 months? What is it? Is it you being kind of picky, or is it the process that's slowing you down?
At the moment, they can't get the car. So I was looking at the C-Class hybrid, and it was due out September last year, and they've got a problem with the chips. So it was due out, I think, January this year, but now that's been put to August. I have seen one in the showroom, but you have to go through quite a rigmarole to get a test drive in it because it's the only one in the UK. So that's been my problem. But I can get an old model BMW.
You'll just end up doing that, won't you? Go through all this process and just buy a second-hand car.
And it's just not what you wanted. So yeah, I feel that you are kind of sold what they want to sell you at the moment.
What could they have done differently? If you think about how a dealership could make its offer stand out from the crowd, what do you think they could have done to make sure apart from the supply issues, if we put that to one side, is there anything they could have done differently to make you spend your money quicker?
Well, to be honest, Mercedes convinced me because they dropped one off at my door in the end.
Wow.
It wasn't the exact model, but it was like, look, we'll get this to your door
Yeah.
and you can have it for a week.
Yeah.
So I think, well done to them, and thank you very much, because that was the change. It was like, yes, I want this.
Yeah.
And they said, well, you're going to have to wait for it.
Going out of their way for it. John, what about you? What do you think dealerships can do to make their offers and their buying process stand out?
The buying process is quite interesting, I think, because it comes back to what people are comfortable in doing. And I think we talked about change earlier. Unless you're kind of shown a new way of being able to buy something, you often probably don't stumble upon it by yourself. Somebody shows you it and then you say, oh, that was really easy, I'll do that next time. And so for that very first time where you've got a new process set up, and we've got clients going through this at the moment, it is about being able to explain that and bring it into a process to introduce it. So for instance, one of our clients, they've got the ability for somebody to buy a car completely online. Now, as we said earlier, not lots of people do that, even though the ability's there. They do want to actually have some sort of interaction, whether that's coming to a showroom or even a remote interaction via an email, a phone call, whatever it might be. But they, that's their website. Not everybody goes to their website. So they might find their cars on, a classified listing site, or from, they might be on the OEM website and think, I want to test drive that car. I'm going to look for my local dealer and call them up and book a test drive. So for them, they're having to try and work out, well, how do we then bring in a new process of being able to save them time, do more stuff at home for themselves without forcing them to do it, but just letting them know that they can do it? Because if they don't know about it, they're just going to turn up for their test drive and not have done all the stuff they could have done at home, which will speed up the process.
Yeah.
So what they've done is they've kind of introduced a bit of a script of, here's some bullet points to think through when you're answering phones. And if they have people call in, let's say as an example from the OEM website, booking a test drive, what they're trying to do is now introduce their website on the phone as part of their process to say, oh, by the way, have you been to our website? Did you know, we speak to lots of our customers, and one of the pain points they've previously had at buying a car is spending 2.5, 3 hours in a dealership when buying a car. Well, actually, we can get that down to 30 to 60 minutes because there's a lot of stuff you can do at home before you even turn up.
Yeah.
So if you've got a part exchange, you can take photos, you can upload it, we can get evaluation ready before you even come down. We've got finance calculators on our website. We've got a new car configurator, so you can build your perfect car, which they're seeing. One of our clients are seeing 1 in 5 people use the new car configurator. And when there's lack of stock, that's helping them build the forward orders, etc. So there are things you can do, but it's up to you to kind of introduce it, because not every customer is going to find it by themselves and might not even prefer it. But it's about giving them that kind of option of, if you want to do the finance application before you come down, you can. The ability's there. If you want to do this, you can, and it's up to you.
And also, I suppose it's putting those options, those kind of options of each stage in at the right stage, isn't it? So it's putting the car configurator in front of them at the right time. You can't just rely on them to find it, can you?
Exactly.
That will only happen with a few people, won't it? I'm guessing with your approach, Joel, with your car, has it been a hybrid thing where you've kind of looked online and you've been there? Obviously, they've had it drop it off physically at your door, but would you call it a hybrid approach to the buying purchase?
I'm sorry.
So
because it's a hybrid car.
Oh wow, there we go. Yeah.
Hybrid.
We should say EV. Yeah, you can't use hybrid anymore, can you?
No, absolutely. It confused me.
So if you flick between online and offline, basically, in terms of the
I went down the build my own car and have a look at it, and that was fun, building my own car. But then I really wanted to get in that car once I'd built it, and then you can't get the spec that you built. So you've got a different spec that's being delivered, and you're thinking, well, will it be the same or will it not? I don't like. Well, So it's not an easy thing to buy a car unless you're going to have what they've got. So whether it can be easier, I was just thinking back at your old days. I love finding a car wow review. If I'm looking for a review on a car, I go and have, because is it Matt who does?
Yeah.
He's really good at reviewing the cars,
great.
and he'll go through everything, and I'm like sitting on the edge of my seat.
we did the same thing, to be honest. I mean, I worked with the guy for years, but when we wanted a little runaround car just for like going to the station, but there were certain things we wanted, and my wife was picking it, and she didn't know what to get, and I said, just go and look at the reviews, and she did. Sat there, listened to a few reviews, and went, that's the car we're getting.
I think the problem with that, because the Car Wow reviews are so good, you end up watching reviews for cars you're never going to buy.
Yeah.
You're just enjoying Matt, aren't you?
Yeah.
Before you know it, you spent 3 hours watching car videos that you're never going to buy.
He's very good. Very good.
Does he come with the car?
Sat in the passenger seat. Joel, from your perspective, have you seen any kind of glaring errors that dealerships have made, or in terms of online selling, that part of it?
I think the biggest thing is, and this is not me saying, oh, this is a massive error. This is actually just like feedback from dealerships that I speak to. Is, a lot of people went in for a solution which kind of they were forced into themselves. The lockdowns happened. They were like, what do we do? Do we just not sell cars, or do we try and find a solution to help us do that whilst we can't open? So their hands were kind of forced, and there weren't many solutions in the marketplace either. There was like one or two to choose from, but they've kind of gone down they stick a buy now button on their website and think, okay, that's going to change our business. And the most people I speak to, it kind of doesn't, because again, not everybody. You've got the single figure percentage of people who are happy to click through and buy a car purely online, but actually the majority of people need help, and it's about trying to integrate that into processes. So if you've got a team of people who know they've got a website with a buy now button, and that somebody says, oh, I'm interested in buying, I'll go to our website, and it's almost like that's not I'm the showroom, so I don't have to worry about you. That's our online team, that's our digital team, nothing to do with me. And things become very kind of like, segregated. So that person then does come into the dealership, and everything they've done online is kind of forgotten. They have to go back through it. So they have to go, even things like if they've submitted a lead, a lot of the time they have to say, oh, here's my email address again, here's my number, this is what I was looking at, this is the things that are important to me. And they're starting again. And I got to a monthly payment online, but now we're starting again, and you're going to your manager and you come back with this figure. Yeah. But how did I get this figure online? Can you go back and ask the question? And it's time consuming, it's repeating the same steps, and that's what customers don't really like. So I think just thinking technology will change your business, it won't. You need the technology to have the ability to do stuff, but actually it's embedding it within your actual processes that you use today, or potentially changing some of your processes around the technology, whichever way it works. But the majority of success comes from the processes. It's not the technology. If you don't have that technology there, then of course you can't sell cars online. But even if you do have that, a lot of it will come to the processes. I mean, we've seen a couple of thousand installations of Roadster to different dealerships, and they're not all 100% successful straight away, because it comes down to the staff, to the people, how they embed it. If they never introduce it to people, guess what? It doesn't get used. And so it really is the processes that will make or break the success of investment in any technology. That's from what we've seen. Yeah,
and like you say, it impacts the culture, doesn't it, as well? The whole team has to come along with it, really.
Well, I think a really good example is QR codes, and in the US, our CMO did an article on this for Forbes, but she was saying that when QR codes first came along, everyone thought this would be a great marketing tool, and everyone's going to go up and scan the codes and then use it for marketing. And actually, it wasn't at all. They've now been used to operationalize stuff, and they're great now for like plane tickets or something like that to get you through, and it's part of the process rather than a big marketing ploy. And I think it's the same with the buy now button. That's just like having the QR code, but if you don't put that as part of your processes and join it all up, it just doesn't really do anything.
It's never going to get used, is it, in that respect?
Exactly.
Joel, if we look ahead sort of 5 years from now, where do you see the relationship between the dealerships and also the consumer? Do you see it developing in any particular way, or?
I think, there's a lot of talk about them becoming the agency model, isn't it? And I think it scares a lot of dealerships, but is it Volkswagen who've already gone with it on their electric vehicles? And Mercedes are talking about it. As a consumer, I went to the website, because as a consumer, it feels like the agency model anyway. I can go to the website and I can build my car, but then I go to the dealer and then I do the deal. That's the only difference, but they're talking about a fixed price off of everybody if we go with the agency model. Is that better? Because what you were just suggesting there is, I find a price online and then I get to the dealer and it's a different price. As a consumer, I think the agency model will be good, but I know it's not something that the industry is welcoming, or they're going to fight it.
Yeah.
So I would definitely say in 5 years' time, that's where we will be.
That will spark some conversation for anyone who's watching this video. What about yourself, John?
I think some manufacturers are definitely going to go down an agency route. I don't think every single one will. I think, it's interesting. I've been looking at kind of stats from around the world where they have implemented this, and probably one of the longest running ones is Toyota, I would say, in New Zealand. And they've, as a brand, have been market leading for decades, really. Before they went to kind of the agency model, I think they were 22% of retail sales. So nearly 1 in 4 cars, just over 1 in 5 cars was new cars bought Toyota, and I think the second in the market was like Ford or something at 11%. It was like half the amount. Mm-hmm. And what's interesting is when they've made the switch, the initial feedback from the dealerships were the very first. It's going to have teething problems, of course. The very first kind of bits of feedback were, we're not sure we're at parity here. So to be fair to Toyota New Zealand, I think they upped the payments and made it kind of where dealerships were at parity for, if they were, just under a franchise agreement. So then the dealers were kind of happy that, okay, we're making the same amount of money, it's easier to budget and stuff like that, and there's less kind of pressure. But actually, if you look at you can go on to, the Australian kind of, for the continent, the car sales figures, etc. You can see New Zealand, the split down. Since they've done that year on year, the market share has just gotten progressively worse. So from 22%, they're down. I checked it about a month or two ago, and year to date in 2021, around November, they're at 14% from 22% market share. Right. And it progressively came down over the last few years that it's been running. So then you have to think about, well, what does that do to the after-sales business for those dealers? They might be parity on the sales, but if the sales volumes are much less, I think there's long-term effects that people have to look at, because I think what manufacturers will have to do if they take on the agency model, I think it solves the problem of, I say the problem, but, the perceived problem of pricing, and they can have one price everywhere, and that's absolutely what the manufacturers want, and I get that. And I think from a customer, you probably get that as well. It's nice to know that you're paying the same as everybody else. So I think that makes sense. I think what manufacturers probably haven't been good at in the past, or have no real history of showing, is any retailing experience, and they have to work out how to move with the market. So if they're losing market share all of a sudden, how do they combat that? Which how do they go to market? How do they tap into customers? I think if the players who do it, if the other brands don't do it, i.e. in New Zealand, other brands didn't do that, they start stealing some market share when they will do a deal for somebody, and consumers are kind of used to a deal. So I think there's that initial hurdle of a potential drop in market share to overcome that, because it's so kind of new. People haven't really seen enough examples, but I think Toyota New Zealand's a very good one to look at. Yeah,
it takes some big risk taking, I think, doesn't it?
Yeah, and they're getting lots of investment at the moment, or want lots of investment for R&D, and so all of a sudden you don't want to show market share drop in key markets. New Zealand's quite a small market, but if you did that in one of the big ones like the UK, that could be quite a risk.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to be in that position, having to make that decision in that board meeting at all. But I think, just to wrap up, guys, obviously you've both spent a lot of time in the industry, and as you've just explained, John, there's a lot of things that are changing. I think we've kind of, it's been pretty obvious during this conversation. What are you looking outside of the buyer journey, just as the industry as a whole, Joel? What are you looking forward to the most in the next few years?
Well,
apart from getting your car,
eventually.
That's not going to come in the next few years.
The next 10 years.
Yeah. I mean, as logistics, we have got plans for the future, so we're quite excited about our software, which kind of develops with everything that's happening here today, and the journey. I mean, we're looking at employment law and how people invest in employees. So I'd like to see this time in 5 years that we're really helping out more internally with the employment side of things, and that's certainly our focus that we've got involved on. We've been dealing with a lot of customer issues, that's what we were renowned for, but I think we're at 50-50 now, where we're dealing with employee issues against consumer issues as well. So yeah,
that's a step forward though, isn't it? In a way.
Yeah, or sidestep. I'm not sure.
Step somewhere.
We've expanded the legal team, so the volume's the same. It's just 50. It's just the percentage. Yeah.
What about yourself, John? What's the thing that you're looking forward to the most?
I mean, there's lots of changes coming in. It's hard to kind of pinpoint one thing. I think probably from a biased point of view, the thing I'm closest to at the moment, obviously, is from a technology point of view. I think now that you're having a lot of the tech providers, there's been quite a lot of consolidation there. I think there's going to be a lot more technologies talking to each other, and that's going to give the potential for some dealerships to innovate a bit more than what potentially they've been able to do before, because they've kind of been like hands tied behind their backs really with, we've got this piece of software that does this for us, this piece does that, and they will not speak to each other. They can't. I think there's a lot of solutions coming out from across the globe, to be honest, where they'll be able to kind of have a lot more ability to say, right, we're going to go in this direction, we're going to innovate, and we're going to do this. So I think that's going to be interesting. Obviously, you've got the other players that have started in the marketplace, and it'd be interesting to see how they, how they grow and what that kind of, again, does it force dealerships to do certain stuff? I mean, again, looking at the US, that has happened. Carvana started offering customers certain things, and then dealerships started saying, right, we're going to do that as well. And so it kind of forced their hand a bit, and I can see that happening over here as well. But ultimately, I think all of it will just lead to, hopefully, a better experience when people buy cars, and it gets rid of that kind of horrible, when you say automotive to people, or if someone says I work in car sales, there can be that kind of stigma attached to it, and I hope that's what I think could be driven out in the next kind of 5 years. That'd be really good.
I agree. I think that everything we've talked about today kind of points at that, doesn't it? Which is really positive. Time goes very quickly in this studio, guys, as you've probably noticed. But we've got to wrap up. But that was fascinating, and we'll obviously have you back on. Hopefully, when you're back on next time, Joel, you'll have your car. Hopefully,
down in it.
Yeah, we'd like to see it. And but thank you both. Thank you, John.
Yep.
Thank you, Joel. And take care. We'll speak soon.
Thank you.
Cheers. Thank you. You've been watching The Armchair Show. Thank you so much for watching this episode. Remember to hit the subscribe button and the bell so you always get notified whenever we post a new video in the future. But until next time, we'll see you then.